What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back to a new review. Today we are checking out a phone that has the potential of replacing a lot of flagships out there, and this is a phone that has a price tag of around $500. So this right here, it's called the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2S, and this one was released about 4 months ago. So even though this phone is kind of old and it's not that expensive, this phone has the exact same specs as we get for the newly released Samsung Galaxy Note 9. So you get the same Snapdragon 845 and you can get this phone with either 6 or 8 gigs of RAM. Now you can get this phone with up to 256 gigs of internal storage, or you can get it with 64 gigs of internal storage, but I recommend that you try getting a version that has more internal storage because the phone cannot take an SD card, so it only has a slot for 2 SIM cards. It cannot take SD cards. This phone has a lot of things going for it. First of all, the design. Well, this is one of the most beautiful phones that I've seen, but I guess it really depends how you look at it, because if you look at it from the back, it does look great. The back is made out of ceramic and it is extremely slippery. Then we have a metallic frame and we have glass covering the front of the device. Now the bezels around the screen aren't the smallest out there, and we also get a chin at the bottom of the screen there, but I guess that chin is used for something because we have an LED notification light, we have the light sensor and a 5 megapixel front facing camera. But I wish the chin would have been a bit smaller. Aside from that, the phone has an NFC chip inside, so you could technically use the phone for Google Pay, and aside from that we get wireless charging and fast charging. Now, I believe that this is the first phone from Xiaomi that supports wireless charging, and even though I don't use wireless charging that often, it's a nice option to have, mostly for a phone around $500. Now, luckily you're not going to have to charge this phone very often, because inside this phone we have a 3400 mAh battery, and even though that doesn't sound like much, the software optimization is awesome because this is using MIUI 9.6. So you're going to be able to get between 7 and 9 hours of screen on time on one charge, and that's more than pretty much any other flagship out there. We also get dual speakers, so we have the speaker at the bottom and the speaker at the top here, and even though the phone doesn't sound as good as the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus, it still sounds better than pretty much all the other phones that use only one speaker. So having 2 speakers is definitely a nice addition. Now, by now you've noticed that we don't have a 3.5mm audio jack anywhere, and that is unfortunate, but at least we get an adapter from USB-C to a 3.5mm audio jack that comes in the box. But it would have been nice to see a 3.5mm audio jack because it would have made things so much easier. And talking about what comes in the box, well, there is also a plastic case that you're gonna find in the box, and that's great because it's gonna make the phone a bit less slippery, and the case looks actually pretty good on the phone. Now, the phone is that slippery that if you place it on any surface that's not totally straight, well, it will just slide off. So be careful to replace the phone because it will fall down. Alright, so the screen is a 5.99 inches IPS panel that has a 18:9 screen ratio and a 1080p resolution. And if you look at the screen by itself, it looks great. The colors look pretty decent, the viewing angles are good, and the screen gets bright enough for the outdoors. But if you look at this phone, another flagship phone, you can definitely tell that this is not the best screen out there. So I wish the screen would have been a bit better because it would have made the whole experience so much better. So for a phone around $500, the screen looks great, but you cannot compare this to like the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus, for example. Moving on to the front-facing camera. So the front-facing camera is a 5 megapixel sensor. Now the placement of the camera is not great, so every time you want to take a selfie you have to turn the phone around, and that's not the best experience. And the camera cannot be used for face unlocking either, so the phone doesn't support the face unlock function that we've seen for pretty much all phones these days. So you're gonna have to use the fingerprint scanner on the back every single time you wanna unlock the phone. Now the fingerprint scanner on the back is extremely fast and extremely accurate, so really no complaints about that fingerprint scanner, but I wish the phone would have supported that face unlocking feature. Now, as a front-facing camera, the quality of the pictures is average or maybe just below average, so the front-facing camera is not that great. If you want to take full advantage of the screen, you can also use gestures, but if you don't like gestures, you can use the buttons as well. So if you swipe up, you go back to your home screen. If you swipe up and to the right, you open the multitasking, and if you swipe right from whatever screen you are in, that's going to become the back button. Now the gestures seem to work decent enough, but me personally, I'm not a big fan of gestures, so I'm always going to turn on those buttons. And we're moving to the back of the phone and checking those two cameras on the back of the phone. So the main camera, it's a 12 megapixel sensor with the f1.8 and optical image stabilization. And the second lens is another 12 megapixel sensor with the f2.4, and this camera is used for optical zoom, so 2x optical zoom. The phone also supports 4K recordings at 30 frames per second, but for 4K recordings and 30 frames per second, it's only using electronic image stabilization, and the image stabilization isn't the greatest thing out there. Now, if you want better image stabilization, you're better off to record in 1080p at 30 frames per second, and for that you get optical image stabilization and electronic image stabilization at the same time, so that's much better. Now, I've done a comparison video between this phone and the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus, a camera comparison video, and I'm gonna leave a link to that video in the video's description or the top right corner, so definitely check that video because I posted some videos and a bunch of pictures. But to quickly summarize the cameras on the back of this phone, they are good, but not as good as the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus in some situations. So for daytime pictures, this will do a bit better than most pictures that you're gonna take with the S9 Plus, but the zoom lens isn't as sharp as the one that we find on the S9 Plus. As for low light pictures, well, there is a lot of noise in those pictures taken at night, taken by the Mi Mix 2S. But definitely check that video that I posted in the video's description, because there are more examples and a lot of sample pictures in there. Performance-wise, this phone is fast and probably faster than most other phones using the Snapdragon 845. Definitely faster than my Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus, but maybe not as fast as the OnePlus 6. And that has to do with MIUI 9.6. So this device is running MIUI 9.6 that's based on Android 8. No matter what you do with this phone, no matter how many apps you have open, no matter what apps you are using, the phone is always fast. So there is nothing slowing this phone down. You can play any games you want on it. Now, I wish I could play Fortnite on it, but supposedly it's not available for it yet. Hopefully it will be available in the near future, but as of now I was not able to play that game on it. But other than that, every single game that I played did perform extremely well. Now, I like the fact that whenever you're watching a YouTube video, you can zoom in and you can take full advantage of the screen. So you have no black bars on the left or on the right or anything like that. So that's a very nice experience watching YouTube videos on this device. Aside from that, the GPS unit inside this phone is extremely quick. It literally takes like 1 second to find your location. The phone is also packed with all the sensors that you can imagine. And I really don't have any complaints about this phone. My only complaint is the screen. I wish the screen would have been an AMOLED screen or something like that, because I feel that the experience would have been so much better with this device. But other than that, the phone is absolutely gorgeous and it functions extremely well as well. So I highly recommend this phone. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, don't forget to press that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.